Yeah, lovely Biafrans. As you are following what we are doing, we are greeting you as you are putting yourself in order and understanding the critical things happening in Biafran struggle. All of you knows that from now on, we are into international recognition. It is not a hidden thing. We are into international recognition. And what is our topic this morning? Ogechukwu Nkere, leading Biafrans, Eritrea, Ambazonia, Somaliland to international recognition. To international recognition. Or you can also have it this way. Acting Prime Minister Ogechukwu Nkere, leading African emerging nation to international recognition. This is how things is unfolding, and before you come here and you want to understand the meaning and the reason we are acting on vote, everybody, this picture here is to show you what is really going on. Our acting prime minister has taken a very new dimension in Biafran struggle. And before we proceed now, there is something I want you to see, because our acting prime minister is very good in this international movement. All these things, all these pictures you see here are the people who will speak for you. And he has been able to gain a lot of people inside Washington, D.C. So, this is Dr. Dodge, which we are going to play his own message when our acting prime minister brought him to Finland to speak to Biafrans. And as international recognition is now going on, we have to tell you how international recognition is going on, and where we are and how we are doing what we are doing. Analysis are in different form. In 555 vision, we are the people, we bring out the story. When you see people jubilating, you know, in Africa, in Biafran land, which we are changing the narrative in Nigeria, they are made to become consumers. But there are people that produce the messages, that produce the producers. Then we are the people bringing the message from where it is difficult. Then when the victory is being won, then people will begin to jubilate things they don't know how it was formed. And this is nature of life. A lot of people like to pluck some fruit to eat, but they don't know when the fruit is being plucked to grow. So what we are doing here now is how the international recognition is taking place. And our acting Prime Minister Ogechukwu Nkere is taking lead in African emerging nation. So before we come here, there is something I have to show you here. Come on.
Gather and to push this vision. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you. I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time, and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing, and for me to go back to America. So thank you, Godspeed, and have and blessed New Year. Yeah, that was a surprise. They said that we could not make it. We are not going to reach anywhere. They have the weapons. They have the power. They can do anything, and you can't use them. They can't even use them. We are not going to reach anywhere. They have the weapons. They have the power. They can do anything, and you can't use them. They can't even use them. We are not going to reach anywhere. They have the weapons. They have the power. They can do.
Do you see this movement? Because some of you, when you will ask a question in some of the area you belong, these breakaway people, nobody, the way our acting prime minister is going out with this man is exactly how he entered. This is exactly how he entered. Look at it.
Weapons. They have the
Exactly how he entered.
And you can't use them. They can't even use. Can't use them. They can't even use the weapons. They have the power. They can do anything.
You see the movement as he bring this man to Finland. After the man delivered his message, he left with him. Now we are about to start our program, international recognition, things that happens inside international recognition. While we are doing this thing, when the victory will come, a lot of people will come and jubilate, celebrate, which is normal. They wouldn't know how the foundation was built. So for this reason, we are trying to start from here. Let us finish this one and start from this one.
And this is Erisat's The Power of One program. Today is January 23rd, 2025. Dr. Michael Rubin is my guest today. He's a senior.
I believe many of you know Michael Rubin, and this is the spokesperson of Eritrea government, the people that our acting prime minister presented yesterday. The international recognition has kick-started, and many of the things that is unfolding, that is what we are bringing now to your table for you people to know. The movement has kick-started, and the international recognition is not something we make noise. We specialize onto international things. Those who knows 555 vision, how we do our own thing, this is where we specialize. Nkere, leading African emerging nation to international recognition. And this is the image. This is the beginning. Maybe you will not understand what happened yesterday. This is the image, and this is the beginning of this movement. What is to come? What is to come? Then listen to what Michael Rubin told Eritrea, and from there we will go to deep down the papers, the grievances declaration, which our prime minister told Biafrans that there will be a grievances declaration. This grievances declaration is what Michael Rubin is leading. And you know, our acting prime minister has been with Michael Rubin one-on-one. He has been with Michael Rubin one-on-one, and they have spoken. Maybe you may not know him, but let me bring something out for you to to know whom we are talking about, because we are not here joking.
Finland's got to be on the right side of history. Finland especially should live up to its status, its claim as being the freest country on earth. That's what Freedom House ranked it as. And right now they're endangering their status. I should note that this isn't just a Nigeria-Finland issue. When there was an argument, when there was an effort for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, Turkey tried to blackmail both, but mostly Sweden, in order to betray Kurds, and Kurdish dissidents and Kurdish free speech in Sweden, in order to get Recep Tayyip Erdogan to drop his objection to Sweden's accession to NATO. And in the end, Sweden betrayed its principles. And Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while he allowed Sweden in NATO, gratuitously humiliated Sweden. Finland should not allow itself to be gratuitously humiliated by a country that violates religious freedom, by a country that violates democracy, by a country that has been guilty of genocide. Finland must be better, and they must recognize that they should not be an arm of transnational repression. Democracy
Now,
by a country
I
that
believe
has been
you know
guilty of
him very, very
genocide.
well. Now, I believe you know him now very well. So, another thing we have to showcase in this place now is the movement of the recognition of African imagining nation. This is Michael Rubin, and inside this place you will see the Rubio. Then, when Michael Rubin addresses Eritrea, and the movement have just kick-started, we start now, and your comment also needed. Put something in your brain and try to understand how the movement is started. If you want to write your comment, we will bring it up here. We'll continue.
Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a think tank based in Washington, D.C., he wrote an article on January 6 advocating regime change in Eritrea, and I have invited him to elaborate on those ideas. Dr. Rubin, welcome and thank you for being here. I know you don't have that much time, so we'll jump in and get started. You say the U.S. should openly support regime change in Eritrea. That's pretty bold and direct. What was missing for the U.S. not to have acted in favor of regime change before, and how likely is it now for the new Trump administration to act on your recommendations?
Well, I hate to say, one of the reasons why the United States hasn't acted on this is simply because the United States traditionally, both under Republicans and Democrats, too often ignores Africa and African issues. The reason why it's becoming more important now, however, is twofold. Number one, we're coming to the end of Isaias's time in office anyway. I mean, he can avoid elections, but he can't avoid aging. And the fact of the matter is he's already had a stroke and he's coming to the end of his life. So number one, we've got to be prepared. Number two, the human rights situation in Eritrea is grave and growing. Now, some people within the Trump administration and in the United States would say that's Eritrea's problem. It doesn't impact the United States. But there are a number of follow-on effects from the human rights situation as we have it now. And the same networks that provide human trafficking also provide transit for terrorists. And it's the same criminal networks, the same criminal gangs. That's number one. Refugee flows we see can be very destabilizing throughout the region. That's number two. And the third reason is because with the Red Sea becoming increasingly important, the United States can no longer afford to ignore what's happening. Now, personally, I favor the human rights approach. What's happening in Eritrea is tragic, and it's long overdue that the United States act. The fact of the matter is, Eritrea could be the pearl of the region. It could be it could be a fabulously wealthy country for all Eritreans, not just the ruling family. If they're, I mean, especially given the education of Eritreans, given the human capital, given the location of Asmara. And there's absolutely no reason why Eritrea can't shine, and the United States should be its partner as it does.
Just to go on to the human rights aspect of it, you probably know that Siham Ali, a US citizen, has been jailed by the regime for more than 12 years. She was jailed when she was 15, and two US employees also disappeared about 20 years ago. What would it take to have President Trump issue there will be hell to pay warning unless Siham and all US citizens are freed immediately? Could this be a trigger point for the regime change idea that you're advocating?
The answer is absolutely yes. We've seen under Trump version 1.0 that Trump, for example, promised to bring down the Turkish economy if they didn't release American pastor Andrew Brunson. And with just a few tariffs on steel, Trump managed to achieve his relief without paying any ransom. The problem, realistically, is that under Isaias, Eritrea has become so poor that there's just very little leverage economically and in terms of sanctions. That said, when we see how the Eritrean royal ruling family steals money and takes it abroad, that really is the point of leverage we have. If we can help the Eritrean people repossess the money which the Isaias and his family have stolen, that is something that, I mean, frankly, Isaias would never want to deal with. He sees.
So, Biafrans, you know, I'm supposed to be letting people know there is something we call joint of communication, joint of communication. These lobbies, the Morgan Chamber, they are the ones that connected both Marco Rubin and every other person inside Washington, D.C. And the movement you are seeing today is the chain, Morgan Strategy Chamber. The strategy have started. The problem we Biafrans have suffering in Nigeria is the same problem Eritreans are suffering inside Ethiopia, the same problem Ambazonians are suffering inside Cameroon, the same problem Somaliland are suffering inside Somalia. And all these African emerging nations are inside Morgan Chamber, the people you are seeing today. But now our acting prime minister Nkere has activated the movement. So we are here letting you know nothing should be surprise to you, anything that is happening. So we are not here to be framing words again, and all those beating around the bush which Ngozi Arabeze have done, turning back the hands of the time since after the declaration. Now the movement of reconocimiento have started. You understand now? And those following Ngozi, you will ask her, which authority will take you inside Washington, D.C.? And immediately you do that, exit door is your own destination. So we continue to listen to how to deal with the international recognition, the grievances they are presenting, and Marco Rubin is leading on it. Then we continue.
He sees himself as a king. He sees himself as an empire, an emperor. He sees himself as someone who should be fabulously wealthy, a billionaire. He doesn't care about his people. So the fact of the matter is, we need to go after Isaias and Isaias personally.
In fact, I want to focus on one paragraph in your article where you say the money Isaias and his cronies have stolen and sent abroad should be identified, seized, and placed in a fund that a provisional Eritrean government can utilize and apply to the country's reconstruction. I mean, great idea. As you know, and as you mentioned earlier, the regime runs various embezzlement schemes. It tripled or quadrupled the foreign revenue currency that it gets by just changing the local currency. No matter how much money you have in the bank, you can only withdraw $300 a month. There is no sign Eritrea's gold revenues have trickled down to benefit the local economy. In fact, Isaias boasts how thoroughly he has destroyed the country and its economy, a hand-to-mouth economy, as he puts it, with contempt. I can go on. So what tools and resources can Eritreans and friends of Eritrea use to find and recover the stolen money, as he put it?
Well, you know, this is really the job of the U.S. Treasury Department. Now, too often, when we think about U.S. foreign policy, people think about the U.S. State Department, the equivalent of a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They think about the Pentagon, the Defense Department. But in reality, some of the most effective actions we see occur with regard to the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Now, they have the ability to basically trace funds, to trace monies, and are the best able to identify where these monies are going overseas. And so what it will take is someone in the National Security Council, National Security Advisor, for example, Mike Waltz, or the incoming Undersecretary of State for Africa, Peter Pham, to basically say at a National Security Council meeting, this needs to be our priority. We need to, from above, tell the U.S. government that when it comes to Eritrea, they need to track every single dollar that's coming in and out of the country. And if it means putting liens on individuals and their houses and so forth, that's fine too. I would also go further and say one strategy that might be taken in the United States is what's called a RICO suit, a racketeering suit. This is what brought down the mafia. And the key with a RICO suit, RICO, if any of your audience wants to Google it, is that everyone involved in the scheme is presumed equally guilty. And therefore, they have a choice. They can either turn state's evidence and start giving evidence against those involved in the criminal scheme, or they will suffer the same consequences, losing their house, losing their money, losing their livelihood, being put in prison. And the question is, how many within the diaspora, for example, in the United States, really want to spend their life in prison because Isaias Afwerki wants to be a billionaire out of the country? And if it means putting the Pentagon, the Defense Department, but in reality, some of the most effective actions we see occur with regard to the U.S. Department of the Treasury. Now, they have the ability to basically trace funds, to trace monies, and are the best able to identify where these monies are going overseas. And so what it will take is someone in the National Security Council, National Security Advisor, for example, Mike Waltz, or the incoming Undersecretary of State for Africa, Peter Pham, to basically say at a National Security Council meeting, this needs to be our priority. We need to, from above, tell the U.S. government that when it comes to Eritrea, they need to track every single dollar that's coming in and out of the country. And if it means putting liens on individuals and their houses and so forth, that's fine too. I would also go further and say one strategy that might be taken in the United States is what's called a RICO suit, a racketeering suit. This is what brought down the mafia. And the key with a RICO suit, RICO, if any of your audience wants to Google it, is that everyone involved in the scheme is presumed equally guilty. And therefore, they have a choice. They can either turn state's evidence and start giving evidence against those involved in the criminal scheme, or they will suffer the same consequences, losing their house, losing their money, losing their livelihood, being put in prison. And the question is, how many within the diaspora, for example, in the United States, really want to spend their life in prison because Isaias Afwerki wants to be a billionaire?
Right. So the U.S. embassies, I mean the Eritrean embassies in the U.S. or in Europe and Canada are involved in collecting a 2% tax, as they call it. How liable are they personally, and what can be done, to basically stop the embezzlement schemes they've been continuing to do for years and years?
First of all, let me say that the 2% tax is illegal according to United Nations Security Council resolutions. Let me also say that the United States taxes our own expatriates. I will say that that is extremely bad policy on the part of the United States, and we should not do it. But when Eritreans will say, people who are representing the government, that the that the Americans do it and there's no difference to what the Eritrean government is doing, that's simply false. There's no equivalence. What the Americans are doing are taxing our citizens. And if our citizens give up their citizenship, they no longer need to pay the tax. What the Eritreans are doing are taxing people based on their ethnicity or former nationality. And they're doing it, it's more of an extortion scheme. Once you pay the money, you are forced to join specific organizations where you have to pay further dues. So it's a continuing extortion scheme. The fact of the matter is that the United States shouldn't participate in the 2% and should target those legally who are doing so on American soil or European soil. We also need, and this goes to your previous question, to start sanctioning the Eritrean banks which act as basically criminal recipients of these sorts of money. And I mentioned this in my article. That really is the next step. Targeting the Eritrean banks, both sanctioning them as entities of a terrorist or criminal enterprise, and then establishing criminal liability for anyone who sends money to them. And then you can allow the Eritrean diaspora to decide whether it really is worth it, given that they would be violating racketeering or anti-terrorist laws should they fund Eritrean banks.
So, Biafrans, what we are explaining here now is what PM told us concerning the declaration of grievances. Eritrea have started the declaration of their own grievances. But as we are going on, some people which Ngozi Orabueze has destroyed their own brain, like Stephen Ojukwu, those Ngozi Orabueze have destroyed their own brain that has no ability of asking question. This made us to write this article. We wrote this article. We say Igbos will soon tag Trump, senators, and all House of Representatives in DC a sabo criminal scammer just for speaking out for Biafra. And who is leading this thing? Ngozi Orabueze. And as you are watching here now, the people, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, cried out to come and speak for Biafrans. These are the people, Marco Ruben, Rubio, Morgan, the lobbyists. And the people that Ngozi Orabueze have deceived, these are them, Stephen Ojukwu, and many of them that doesn't want to listen. And all of you need freedom. the person who is giving you freedom, what is happening here. You can see it, whether you like it or you do not like it. This is the movement. This is the movement. Acting PM Ogechukwu Nkere leading African imagining nation to international recognition. This is the reality, and this is the movement you are watching now. It doesn't matter how good you are on insulting people, because Ngozi Arabeze have destroyed you people's brain to the extent that you can also see Jesus and they call him criminal. Besides, they kill Jesus, they called him criminal also. So that is the extent of things. But any day, your brain will be reset. This will become your own position. In as much as Ngozi Arabeze is concerned, any day you eat the fruit of knowledge and they ask Ngozi Arabeze, did you have really contact inside Washington, D.C.? Yeah, remove will become your own position. I am talking to the kind brain of this kind fellow, Stephen Ojukwu. Now, we have to continue. You can also decide to kill your own savior. Ndị Igbo nwere a village that is called Ndị Ogbuonyoma. We continue.
The challenges could be, the money could be hidden, I don't know, in places where it's not accessible, China, Russia. What can the U.S. Treasury do in terms of tracing, that kind of the deposits where they maybe in Chinese or Russian banks or something like that?
Look, I mean, honestly, it's quite difficult, but we've seen cases where this has occurred before. A number of countries have returned money that was stolen by Iraqis and sent to Dubai and Lebanon. And you know that both Dubai and Lebanon can be very, very difficult when it comes to issues of financial transparency. And yet the Iraqis, post-2003, succeeded in this. Cyprus and Armenia have both gotten off the money laundering lists by basically turning state's evidence and becoming far less opaque than they used to be. So too have the Cayman Islands. And when that doesn't work, we see issues such as we've seen with the Panama Papers, where specific leaks can become involved. Now, if countries like China and Russia won't play ball, what you do have is an ability with regard to reputational risk, where some of their companies who want to deal on the world stage are going to be very reticent to be tied to this sort of scheme. The question then becomes for the Russians or the Chinese, would you rather hide Azaeus's money, or would you rather do business with the rest of the world, but you can't do both? That's how the U.S. Treasury Department works. That's how financial sanctions work. And that's why it may be difficult to identify and compel the return of some money, but it is possible to wage economic warfare, not against the Eritreans, but against the Azaeus family, because make no mistake, the returned money comes not to the United States. It comes to funding Eritrea so that it can build itself into the Singapore it deserves to be, rather than the North Korea on the Red Sea.
Right, right. As you know, Eritrea has been destroying its human capital for decades, basically wasting millions of man years of productivity. So if a system collapse happens before Eritreans are organized properly, all kinds of bad actors can rush in to fill the vacuum. For example, mercenary armies like the Wagner Group, super rich Gulf states, desperate neighbors, and even feuding local warlords. What is your advice for Eritreans inside and outside the country on how to build the necessary alliances with the US and others to prevent such scenarios from happening and increase the chances for Eritreans to own their destiny?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. Eritrea is not alone. In 2006, I traveled to Gdansk, Poland, for a conference marking the 25th anniversary of the Solidarity movement. Lech Walesa, who had gone from a labor leader in opposition to being the president of Poland, was there. So too were Cubans, Zimbabweans, and all sorts of peoples from other countries, both those which have had successful democratic revolutions and those that had yet to do so at the time. And what they were all talking about was lessons learned. So, for example, when the change comes, we know this, and we've seen this with Syria. When the change comes, it's going to come much faster than anyone expects, whether
When the change comes, it's gonna come more faster because Eritrea, Ambazonia, Biafra, Somaliland are people on the desk of Washington, D.C., seeking for their own freedom. When the freedom comes, when the change comes, it will come drastically, boom, once. This is the message on Trump table now. And do you know what? This man you are hearing here, for you to know the kind of damage Ngozi Orabueze has caused to Biafran people since the declaration. This kind of men,
Ex-British cabinet members, the criminal lobbyists that are parading with them in the name of trying to restore Biafra. Biafrans already stopped them on their track. That is why they don't go. They can't move anywhere. Not when some, not when some of us are.
Exactly.
Ex-British cabinet members, the criminal lobbyists that are parading with them in the name.
Do you hear it? It is not a surprise. So these are the people. But Eritrea, they are pleading for advice, what to do. These are when you hear about intellectuals. Mark Reuben is one of the top, the third man in Washington, D.C. The third man in Washington, D.C. And all these people are with us. All of them are with us. That is what we are telling you. You may use because of, you see this man down here, this man with Elon Musk, you see him here with our acting prime minister. Everybody, every one of them has been well informed concerning Biafra. But this shenanigans of Ngozi Orabueze is the thing withdrawing Biafrans back. We continue listening. Eritrea grievances declaration. We continue.
it's Isaiah and his family, or whether it's the Eritrean people. And it's important now to actually form the networks so that you can fill the vacuums, so that you can think not only about the evils of Isaiah Afwerki and why he deserves to hang from the gallows, but instead talk about how you are going to repair the education system, how you're going to repair commerce, how you're going to repair free trade, how you're going to prevent a situation like what happened in Russia in 1991, where you had rise of oligarchs distort the economy. These are the discussions which should be being had in all sorts of countries outside Eritrea now, because the Eritrean diaspora is incredibly strong, is incredibly able, and they can learn the lessons learned from other states that have failed in this transition, skip a few steps, and really enrich their next generation with equity and with justice.
Right. You mentioned Peter Pham earlier and a few others who can be partners for this change. What does the diaspora Eritrean community need to do to get their support and to accelerate, the chances of change in Eritrea by involving such people and maybe even, think tanks like the American Enterprise Institute, for example?
Well, first of all, let me use this opportunity to say that at the American Enterprise Institute, we take no foreign money and we take no U.S. government money. I personally take no foreign money or U.S. government money. And the point I'm making is this. The Eritrean government will buy lobbyists.
Mhm.
But as the expression goes, you can put lipstick on a pig.
Do you hear what he said? Do you hear what he said? That he takes no money from Eritrea. He has also said it that he is taking no money from Biafra. But they have to buy lobbies. They have to buy lobbies. Now, our people, any day you grow up, or people who is still thinking like Steve, which the best language they have in their own tongue is to call somebody criminal, no matter how innocent that person could be. That's why we said, you people will one day come out and begin to call Trump criminal.
Talk about a
Because Ngozi
CRC
Orabueze have
committee
taught you
that
people.
has been officially dissolved by the Biafra Republic government in exile in a constituted meeting with a vote of 20-9. That committee was dissolved. Then these lobbies went ahead to post on Twitter that the CRC appointed somebody else. I mean, the analysis by our legal department on the action of these lobbies is really very, very grave.
Are you following what we are doing? You can only understand what we are doing if you are a critical thinker. If you are a critical thinker, this is what is called grievances declaration, and the person in charge of this movement is Marco Rubin. Now, Stephen Ojukwu, for example, and the people of your type, any day you rise up and they ask Ngozi Orabueze, can you be able to clean your face in front of these people? Do you know what will be your own position? Your own position will become this, because Ngozi Orabueze will consider you all that you have eaten the forbidden fruit. Any day you rise up and ask Ngozi Orabueze, now you have insulted these people to this extent. Do you think that what you are doing can lead you anywhere? Sorry will become your name. You see this list. These are the list of the people that already asked Ngozi Orabueze some critical questions. Critical questions. It doesn't end here. These are the names that comes in line. That's why a lot of people have been removing every day. She removed people every day, including the people she contracted that used to remove people individually. But these are the list that is coming from group. Any day you wake up and they ask. Ngozi Orabueze, for example, the Biafrans has ally with Ambazonia. Biafrans has ally with Eritrea, and these are their leaders. Do you think you can be able to invite all these leaders? The leader of Ambazonia, you see our acting prime minister here, he invited him. The leader of Eritrea, you see our acting prime minister here, he invited him. Are you seeing them? He invited them. Did any day you ask Ngozi Orabueze this question? Do you think that these able men will, after attending the meeting of our acting prime minister, that they will still turn back and they come to you? Because without their own signature, Biafra cannot be, according to our PM, because you need country to come and recognize you. Now, do you think that these able men will turn back and they go to Ngozi? Any day you ask this question, this will become your position. Either you come out from the state of Ngozi and follow your own freedom, or you become you keep yourself in the same bondage which Ngozi Orabeze have instructed for all of you. A place where you don't have right to ask reasonable questions, accept calling people criminals, accept laying accusations on people. That is the only thing Ngozi Orabeze have taught you people. How to insult people. Orabeze have insulted the Biafran Liberation Army openly. Orabeze have insulted the lobbies openly. Orabeze have insulted everything, including the attorney of our prime minister, openly. And you people are still here supporting Orabeze, wasting your own freedom. Your own freedom is being on hostage because of Orabeze that doesn't have anything to offer you. This will become your own position. Then we are going forward. We are going forward to Eritrea grievances declaration.
Pig, but it's still a pig. You can't change the fundamental rot that the Azayas regime represents. And so what you will find, and what the Eritrean diaspora will find, is that those who are advocating against Azayas Afwerki and on behalf of the Eritrean people are doing so because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
They're not accepting money. Whereas those who are lobbying on behalf of Azayas or his troll armies are doing it because they're doing it for cash. They're selling out their nationhood for the sake of a flat screen TV. It's absolutely shameful. Now, the point of this is that in the opposition, if anyone tries to sell you a bill of goods, the answer should be no, thank you. We want your support because we're on the right track, and we want you to do it because we're right, not because you want money. So that's number one. Number two, look, if the Eritreans decide that they're going to have 5 different opposition leaders and they're going to spend all their time fighting with each other, then ultimately they're going to delegitimize their cause. Now, in 1999, I just had received my PhD from Yale University. I came to Washington and I began working. And in Washington in 1999, I met someone named Barham Saleh. Barham was the representative in Washington of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, one of the 2 Kurdish groups, a member of Socialist International, and so forth. Now, there were 2 main Kurdish groups, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, led by Jalal Talabani, and the Kurdistan Democratic Party, led by Masoud Barzani. And they had just fought a civil war with each other. They hated each other. And Barham Saleh had a rule in Washington that no matter how much he disliked the other Kurdish parties, when it came to talking to American officials, congressmen, diplomats, he would never criticize fellow Kurds.
Do you hear what he said? No matter how, listen again, no matter how you hate Ogechukwu Nkere, whenever it comes to international diplomatic conversation or discussion, you must keep your grievances away against your own brother. That is how it happened. You must not like me. You must not like Ogechukwu Nkere. You must not like Simon Ekpa. You must not like Nnamdi Kanu. You must not like Ojukwu. You must not like Owazirike. Because there is something I am going to bring it here, but listen to him again.
In Washington in 1999, I met someone named Barham Saleh. Barham was the representative in Washington of the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, one of the two Kurdish groups, a member of Socialist International, and so forth. Now, there were two main Kurdish groups, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, led by Jalal Talabani, and the Kurdistan Democratic Party, led by Masoud Barzani. And they had just fought a civil war with each other. They hated each other. And Barham Saleh had a rule in Washington that no matter how much he disliked the other Kurdish parties, when it came to talking to American officials, congressmen, diplomats, he would never criticize fellow Kurds. Because the second you criticize fellow Kurds in front of fellow Eritreans, in this case, in front of a non-Eritrean audience, the reaction is going to be, we're not, I mean, you guys don't have your act together. We're not going to get involved. We're not going to choose sides.
Please, Biafrans, please, the comment section is very, very necessary. We want to know if people's brain are being reset. Today, what is Ngozi Orabueze doing? Ngozi Orabueze has already destroyed the image, her own image in Washington, D.C. What is this man saying here? No matter. And the reason we are talking what we are talking and saying what we are saying, you know about this news. You know about this news. The whole world says, keep an eye on the Biafran self-referendum. That is the message that comes from the whole world. And since that day, the eye of the universe is upon Biafra. Since the declaration, what did you hear? Since the declaration, what did you hear? You hear things like this. You hear a lot of people calling people criminals.
Ex-British cabinet members, the criminal lobbyists that are parading with them in the name of trying to restore Biafra. Biafra has already stopped them on their track. That is ex-British cabinet members, the criminal lobbyists that are parading with them in the name of trying to restore Biafra. Biafra has already stopped them on their track. That is why they don't go. They can't move anywhere. Not when some, not when some of us are.
Exactly.
Are you now understanding what did this man say in this place? He says, no matter how you hate your own brother, but the two of you is fighting to achieve one goal. Whenever it comes to international diplomatic table, remove everything. And what was the message from our PM? PM says, anybody who is still talking about Biafra, anybody who is still talking about Nnamdi Kanu, that person is one of us. That was the message from our prime minister. Say, that person is one of us. Stop castigating, stop calling criminals, stop doing this thing, because Michael Rubin just said it here. Say, when you come, they notice that you are not in unity, they will tell you that you are not ready for this cause. Are you getting it? That you are not ready.
Disliked the other Kurdish parties. When it came to talking to American officials, congressmen, diplomats, he would never criticize fellow Kurds. Because the second you criticize fellow Kurds in front of fellow Eritreans, in this case, in front of a non-Eritrean audience, the reaction is going to be, we're not, I mean, you guys don't have your act together. We're not going to get involved. We're not going to choose sides. So what you really need, and this is the most important thing, is a united front. Now, back to Barham Saleh. Because of this, he gained the respect of the United States. He gained the respect of Americans, and ultimately he became Iraq's president. because he understood that there's a place for domestic politics and there's a place for nationalism. And in the halls of Congress, that's not the place for Eritrean domestic politics. So when Eritreans lobby, let's have the different opposition leaders do this. Not seek to delegitimize each other, but they should compete to see who can gain the most followers by being positive and by making Eritrea's case and by giving a clear view of the future. The other thing the Eritreans need to do,
not seeking to delegitimize each other. How does all this war start? You refuse election. You refuse the charter. You refuse every other thing that will take you legally to Washington, D.C. Then you recruited people like Kinsele Anyam, and the Stephen what? You recruited them. You recruited those people that is backing everywhere. Anytime you know that your leg is inside the Washington, D.C., desist from castigating your own brother. That is what Mark Reuben is telling the advice, and the Eritrea will take this advice. But one thing here is, without Biafra, it will be difficult for Ambazonia. Without Ambazonia, it will be difficult for Biafra. But Eritrea is going. Let us continue.
Look, it's an easy thing to say. Eritrea needs regime change. I mean, and in my article I said that, but I also tried to go beyond. Yeah. Because when you go to the U.S. Congress, you know that you have the congressmen, of course, but most of the staff members are in their 20s, and they're the ones you need to convince. The same thing is true with many diplomats who are in their 30s or 40s. What you need to do is not just tell them we need change, but tell them this is how you are going to make change. These are the names of the people who you have to have the Treasury Department investigate. These are the properties who we know are held by illicit corporations, which are really shell companies for Isaias Afwerki and his kids. These are the banks that you need to sanction. And if you go in with that plan, you would be shocked at how fast the United States will come on board. You need to do the research for the American congressmen. And that's where the opposition figures can really come in. And here I'm talking to you about the U.S. Congress because I'm sitting in Washington, D.C., but the same thing is true in Brussels. The same thing is true elsewhere in the world. The fact of the matter is, when we talk about African solutions for African problems, what we need is not a police state as an African solution. We need a situation like Botswana, a thriving democracy, or Namibia, a thriving economy. That's the sort of vision which we should have when it comes to Eritrea.
No, thank you for making that very clear and strong point. I appreciate that. So, Dr. Reuben, just to expand the scope a bit, Somaliland has been a refreshing example of relative stability in this very volatile Horn of Africa, which is ironic since it's not even a sovereign nation. A couple of things. What lessons can we learn from Somaliland? And do you see scenarios where Somaliland can pursue the Taiwan path by attracting powerful allies who can help guarantee its security?
Well, look, when you look at the history of Somaliland, all your audience remembers what happened in Somalia proper upon the collapse of Said Barre, the dictator. And I mean, that was the era of Black Hawk Down. That's when you had various groupings start fighting, especially in Jubaland, in Mogadishu, even in Puntland and so forth. What basically happened in Somaliland was this. The business community was a bit separate from the political community. And the business community, and in the case of Somaliland, we're basically just talking about charcoal and livestock at the time back in 1991. They basically locked the clan leaders and the political leaders in a room and said, we don't want to happen here what happened to the rest of Somalia. So you need to come out with a compact. And it took several days, but they eventually came to an agreement, and it's been, I mean, there's problems in Somaliland, of course, but compared to the Puntland or the rest of Somalia, It's an oasis of security, stability. It's attracted businesses, the second largest Coca-Cola bottling plant in Africa, major airlines, not just the local airlines like Dalu. And let's not also forget about the Habshir and some of the money transfer companies, which are worth Telesom, which are worth billions of dollars, quite literally. So they've had a fantastic transition. They've also dealt with the fact that, look, because Somaliland didn't get foreign aid because much of it was either stolen by Mogadishu or it wasn't given in the first place because it's not, as you said, a recognized sovereign state. You haven't had the ability for dysfunctional corruption to take root. When you're basically funding yourself from customs revenues from the Wajala border post with Ethiopia, then what you basically have is not enough money to steal. And that too can be refreshing. So the important thing with Eritrea is to have the diaspora invest rather than simply say we need to flood this country with money. Too much money too quickly can do more harm than good. But again, this is where the investing community comes in. This is where the diaspora really comes in. Now, the last thing I would put, ultimately, it's going to be the decision of people in the Horn of Africa and in Somalia and Somaliland to determine what the ultimate fate of Somaliland is. But what I always tell the Somalis in Mogadishu is this: if you want Somaliland to be a part of Somalia, you can't force it to be. You've got to make it want to be. You've got to actually perform better in Mogadishu.
Biafrans, I believe people is really following. Here, what we teach is critical thinking. What we are doing here now, we will bring the news, forming the news, making the news. When the victory time will come, you will see a lot of people. Everybody will begin to jubilate, just like what we did in Finland. Everybody begin to jubilate. That jubilation was the joy which Biafrans are expecting since time immemorial. But today, what happened? The thing is just like who is training a pig. When you take out a pig or a dog from the bin, then the pig and dog will just jump out inside the dustbin again. You keep on cleaning. That is exactly what's happening here now. But undermining the step back which Ngozi Odabueze has given Biafrans, we are moving forward. He is talking about the Somaliland and what Ogechukwu Nkere leading Biafra, Eritrea, and Ambazonia, Somaliland to international recognition. Did you hear him here now telling you concerning Somaliland? Our acting prime minister is taking them. And with the wisdom of Chukwokike Abiyama, he is taking them towards international recognition. And you can see the images. We have a lot of them. Information has been circulated. And what we have achieved and where we are going, these are the things you're supposed to know. Biafran Declaration, Bridge, Finance Minister Nkere meet U.S. lawmakers. These are the people, these are the lawmakers. The man you are listening to now is number 30, powerful man. This man you see in the middle, that cross his hand like this, that man is after the vice president of Trump. This man is the person following them. Are you understanding? And our meeting, everything has been there because African Imagining New Nation is here, led by acting Prime Minister Ogechukwu Nkere. This is whether you like it or you do not like it. That is the reality. We continue.
Mogadishu than you do in Hargeisa, the capital of Somaliland. And so far, Mogadishu hasn't. And look, I mean, the diaspora, the Eritrean diaspora understands this. In the United States, we have mortgages. You can buy a house. You can buy a business with a bank loan and so forth. But in Somaliland, in the Horn of Africa, you rely on your family. You have to put that money down first to buy your house, to buy a business. Why would a Somalilander willingly, after putting that money down, hundreds of thousands of dollars to build a house or a business, why would they risk it all to go back to Mogadishu, which doesn't really have a system of transparency or a rule of law? This is why it's so important to have an established system of transparency and rule of law. I can't say enough what the human capital of Eritrea is, both those who are imprisoned in Eritrea itself, but also thank God for the Eritrean democracy in the United States. You contribute much more to the United States than we actually get from you. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that the discussions of how to do banking, of how to do investment, of regulation, that's what should be happening now in the Eritrean community. And that's why I thank you and your listeners for all your hard work in this. Ultimately, I'm an American. It's not my say what happens in Eritrea. But I want to empower the Eritreans because I think it would be good for them. And I think it would be good for the United States to have a democracy in the region, a thriving democracy, rather than a one giant prison camp, which is what Isaiah has transferred the country into now.
Absolutely, yeah. And finally, Dr. Rubin, the Gulf states, especially UAE, is playing a destructive role in Sudan. Could Ethiopia be next? Given Ethiopia's size and significance in the region, as bad as it is now, things can get worse. What trend lines does your research show regarding where the Horn of Africa is heading to? Any indicators things will get better?
There's an old Soviet joke, actually, about the difference between a Russian optimist and a Russian pessimist. Yeah. The Russian pessimist is the one who said, things have never been so bad. There's war, the economy, health, the environment. They couldn't possibly get worse. And the Russian optimist is the one who said, no, they can always get worse. Unfortunately, we have that sort of dynamic right now in the Horn of Africa. Certain countries, I believe, like Somaliland, whether it's recognized or not, have really decided to take their own fates in their own hands. Yeah. Eritrea will in the future, and it's the right size and it has the right location to thrive if it has the right leadership. Once they throw out the thieves who currently treat the country like their own personal fiefdom. When it comes to Ethiopia, look, I understand the complaints that Abiy Ahmed has had with regard to the ethnic basis of federalism. But the way to change that is through a constitutional process, not through military force. By doing the short-term calculation of playing different ethnic groups off each other inside Ethiopia, what Abiy Ahmed is doing is setting the stage for decades of chaos, which will ruin the potential of Ethiopia. And like you said with Sudan, look, it's not only the United Arab Emirates, which are playing a very negative role in Sudan. The fact is, the United Arab Emirates and the Saudis have decided to play out their own traditional proxy war inside Sudan at the expense of the Sudanese. Yeah. And when you have divisions like you have in Ethiopia, then ultimately the same dynamic can come into play in the future. I would hope we don't have these dynamics in the future in Eritrea. And what I would say is that if you are a true Eritrean nationalist, you would never allow the Russians or the Chinese, or for that matter, the Americans or the Emiratis or the Saudis to dictate to you or to pay you to do their bidding. You should build Eritrea because Eritrea can be a great nation and because it has such great potential. But the second you sell yourselves out as a proxy to someone else, you're betraying the dream for which generations of Eritreans have fought. leading up to Eritrea's independence in 1993, but for decades before that as well, against the Derg. And therefore, look, I mean, I wish I could be more optimistic about the Horn of Africa, but the buck stops with the peoples of Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Rubin. I appreciate your time and insights today. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Now, Biafrans, lovely Biafrans, we are here bringing the untold news, the ones that is not flying. We make the news, we bring the news from the root. In order for you, if you are interested in following how your freedom is coming, the line your freedom is following to come, then you can make yourself a critical thinker. When you make yourself a critical thinker, then you will be able to understand what we are doing here
State
now.
Department, and frankly, the British.
Now, this is the same man. He is the same man when he spoke to Biafrans in Finland. You understand? Today we have holiday. Now, Biafrans, share the message. When you want to talk about politics, yeah, fairness and justice, you leave differences apart. Then you know the importance of what you are doing. Without this oath of office, our acting prime minister will not be proud. And this thing you are seeing now, all you are seeing now, he will not be proud. For what you are seeing now, he will not be proud coming out and reorganizing African imagining nation. These are African imagining nation: Eritrea, Ambazonia, Biafra, and Somaliland. These are African imagining nations. And the person leading this connection, the key connector and the brain behind inside Washington, D.C. is Elias Grasores, whom Ngozi Orabueze and her cohort has tagged criminal, saboteur, traitor, and all manner of name. So you can hear the advice Michael Robin gave to Eritrea government. Then we want to play this message again for you to know the importance of vote, because many people doesn't know the importance of vote.
Acting brigade prime minister.
Many people doesn't
to
know.
relinquish such position upon the return of our prime minister to active duty.
And to relinquish such position upon the return of our prime minister to active duty.
Position: I pledge to serve the people of Biafra.
In this position, I pledge to serve the people of Biafra. Truthfully, diligently,
best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
So help me God. When Trump sworn in to office, did you hear Trump? To the best of my ability, so help me God. That is the same oath our acting prime minister took, and that is the reason you see him in front, leading African imagining nation to international recognition. We hear from Michael Rubin,
British Foreign Office, and so forth. But part of the problem is that the Biafrans need their voice to be amplified far beyond the borders of Biafra and far beyond the confines of the communities within the diaspora.
Thank you, Michael. No. Last question.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Yes. Can you please promise the Biafran people that you will keep exposing the Nigerian government and keep exposing their atrocity, and you do the best you can to write up more, whatever you can, to speed up the release of our leader, Prime Minister Mazi Simon Ekpa, which I call my boss. I came across one of your tweets. That was really good. We appreciate you. Please promise the Biafran people that you will keep helping us in fighting our cause. We look up to you, and we believe that you know what we are fighting for, and we really appreciate you. And can Biafran people hear from you? If we can, we hold you accountable with your word that you will always be with us.
Yes. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is the American Enterprise Institute is a nonprofit. I am given the authority to write about whatever I want. There is no pay to play. I am not a lobbyist. I accept no money for my writing. I write based on the principle of what I see, with an effort driven only by me to pursue and to try to change American policy to what I believe would be more just. And therefore, when it comes to me, you don't need to worry about any contract running out or anything like that. That's not why I'm involved. And again, I will never accept any money from a Nigerian. I will never accept any money from a Biafran. I will never accept any money from a lobbyist. I'm doing this because it's right, and therefore I will continue to do it. It's a publisher perish world for an academic, and I'm hooked on the Biafran cause.
The same thing he told Eritrea. But your people have not stopped being confused. Another question. Listen to this question from our acting prime minister, who knows him face to face, one-on-one. We continue.
Thank you very much. One more again, Congressman Jim Moran, which I know you know, and he's our lobby, and we actually have an alliance here with us as well. Can you as well promise Biafrans that you will work closely, I know, with your, what you're doing, and Congressman Moran and alliance, they'll be doing a good job, that you work closely with them as well to bring justice for Biafran people. Thank you.
If I may just say, I've testified in Congress before Jim Moran when he was in Congress. And the congressman and I disagree on everything. It wasn't a pleasant hearing for me, and it may not have been a pleasant hearing for him. But sometimes principle unites. And whatever disagreements we may have on other issues, they don't extend to Biafra. And it's a pleasure to work with allies wherever one can find them, on any side of the aisle. Biafra should not be a partisan cause in the United States. It should be a cause of principle, and therefore I know that we will continue to work towards a common goal when it comes to justice and freedom and liberty for Biafra. I commend Jim Moran for what he's been doing, because partisanship doesn't come into play with it.
Thank you very much.
Are you getting it? Because why we are bringing some of this news is for everyone to know where you are going, what you believe in, what you are doing. Do you know your direction, or you do not know your direction? You do not hate anybody because someone asks you to hate the person, and he
State Department, and
just said
frankly,
something
Congressman
here.
and I disagree on everything. If I may just say, I've testified in Congress before Jim Moran when he was in Congress, and the Congressman and I disagree on everything.
This man in the middle, they disagree on everything. But when it comes to Biafra, Biafra first, because all eyes is on Biafra. All eyes is on Biafra. All eyes is on Eritrea. All eyes is on Ambazonia. And they try as much as possible, as much as you can, to ask yourself or ask the person you are following a question. If removal become your position, do not worry. Listen, freedom is your own. Freedom is not because someone asks you to. Freedom you are fighting is your own generation, your own children, your own father and mother, your own unborn children. But someone will tell you, you have no right to ask question here. And if you do, they will take you off. These are the people they have taken away. On the list, not individual. Individual are thousands. These are the list of the people they have taken away. So we will continue our message. We have to continue our message now through international recognition. Through international recognition. Here, I think we get it from here. Through international recognition, then you will understand more of the things you have not
on
understood.
insecurity in Nigeria. Today, Doug will share his perspective on Biafra freedom, exit from Nigeria, its implications for security, and the role the U.S. government can play. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Doug Bar.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is a much more enthusiastic audience than I normally find in Washington, D.C. And I appreciate very much the opportunity to come. As you can imagine, for me, it's very unusual to be speaking about Nigeria in Lahti, Finland. Only very recently did I have a chance to meet and to speak with your ministers and discuss your cause. And I'm very glad that Michael Rubin spoke to all of you. I have great respect for him, and he writes about...
The Michael Rubin is the person that spoke before. When we are telling you about this thing, it is not propaganda. Our acting prime minister, Nkere, leading African imagining nation to international recognition. Eritrea, Ambazonia, Biafrans, Somaliland. This is the movement. When we were in Finland, he is the person that brought him there. And after this message, he just gingerly took him back to where he come from, because they must be well protected. You understand? So these are the things we are talking about. When our prime minister sent message from inside, she told Ngozi Orabueze, go back to the structure. The dimension, Biafra has a dimension they are following. The new dimension of Biafra is reconocimiento, recognizing Biafra as independent nation. Ngozi Orabueze turn back and give you people new dimension account. But the message was, our new dimension is the movement of international recognition. And we will analyze this message as we play them. We continue.
Liberty and freedom around the world regularly in Washington. I have visited Nigeria and have been incredibly impressed at the people that I have met. As I traveled across Nigeria, I found people who were entrepreneurial, who worked extraordinarily hard, who were people of faith, people who cared for their families, and people with extraordinary potential. Yet I found that they suffered under a government that did not live up to its responsibilities to protect them and
I want to answer this person.
For them.
Biafrans, I want to answer this person. He asked, please, as you are talking, please, can you, as you are Nkere, where can you, ask, okay, we correct your English, ask your Nkere, where is all the money Biafrans donate? Who wrote this thing? Imperio. Yeah, empire. Imperio in the Spanish language. All the people that is asking this question, can you ask Ngozi Orabueze how much Biafran government is paying Nkere for giving this house, for donating this house for Biafran people? You need an account. Abi, you need an account. And this house is the center of Biafra, the head office of Biafran government. This building belong to our acting prime minister. This is one of his office in Baltimore. Then when our PM was choked, looking for a way to connect to Washington, D.C., what you are watching here now, so that the international communities will come for our recognition. Then, Nkere, you are asking today, called PM, called Madam Azuka those days, called Ngozi Orabueze those days, called Biafrans. He said he has this office. You people should come and take it. Ask Ngozi Orabueze, who is asking you for account. Have Biafran people ever paid Ogechukwu Nkere dime for this building since the time of inauguration? And whenever you ask this question, this will become your own position in the hands of Ngozi Orabueze. She will remove you because you have already asked deep question. These are the things Ogechukwu Nkere saw. He says God has blessed him, and the money he is spending to help his relative and a lot of people is too much. It is better for him to bring this money to fight for total liberation. That Orabueze, stop fighting me. I don't have time to fight. And he marked all of you out to go on confusing yourself. If you ever Imperio, you know you don't have Nemo, and you are the one of the people who is asking for his identity, but here you write Imperio. Imperio is palace to palace. That is not a name of anybody. But you have refused to remove the stick in your own eyes, and you are looking another person's own. Ask Kengo's Orabeze. We continue.
And a government that in many cases seem to be working against them instead of for them. Now, Nigeria, as anyone who looks at would recognize, is extraordinarily important, not only for Africa, but to the world. It has the largest population and economy in Africa. Africa itself is a continent of extraordinary potential. A growing population when most of the rest of the world, including America, have declining populations. But we see vibrancy and growth in Africa. And Nigeria has so much to offer, not only, to Africans, but also to Americans and to people around the world. I have occasionally gotten into a taxi cab to go to the airport, and my driver, it turns out, came from Africa. And we will discuss where he or she came from and what their home was like. And what I am particularly concerned about, like Michael Rubin, is concerned about human rights, about religious liberty, about economic opportunity, all of which are fundamental for human people everywhere on earth. And despite problems in my country, and as all of you recognize, all countries have some problems, and I accept with my own as well, the United States has done generally pretty good at trying to protect those opportunities and those liberties, which is why we've drawn people from Nigeria to America. But you shouldn't have to leave your country to have those opportunities. To me, that is the great tragedy that we see in Nigeria today, and for Biafrans, is the belief that to be fully protected and have full opportunity, that they must leave and go somewhere else. Now, you are enriching countries around the world, and that, I think, is wonderful, bringing knowledge of Nigeria, of Biafra, of Africa to Finland, to Europe, and to America. But again, you shouldn't feel you have to leave your homes to do so. And that is something which other people, other countries around the world should support you as you demand that those opportunities be protected. And we all know the problems that have occurred in Africa, in Nigeria. I don't have to go through them, you have lived them. In terms of internal conflict and violence, of misrule and dictatorship, of corruption, of political misbehavior, even of the current government. That the problems, unfortunately, there was great hope when the dictatorship ended. But if one looks at Africa and looks at Nigeria today, one sees it getting worse, not better. And that is wrong. And that is a threat to you all. It's a threat to your families back in Nigeria, and it's a threat to everyone who lives in Biafra. I think that it's important here, it's vital that these opportunities not be lost. An area that I care especially about is religious liberty, and I write about that an awful lot.
So, Biafrans, things we are bringing out, Igbo people used to has one adage that says, onye ụlọ ya na-agba ọkụ, ọ na-achụ oke. That is a very famous parable in Igbo. All of you that has been recruited to go and attack Ogechukwu Nkere, say, come and do account, come and do this one, come and do this one. And he came up and let you know, say, doing account and not doing account, this is the main thing you need now. And this is the reason PM, call him, come and do this thing. Many of you didn't know that the 3 people challenged Nkere in this election that he won. 3 people. 1 drawback, another person challenged until Ogechukwu Nkere has to win with some points. That is democracy. Mana onye ụlọ ya na-agba ọkụ, ọ na-achụ oke. International recognition is what we are into. The questions, all the unnecessary questions you are asking, Ambazonia is not asking this thing. Eritrea is not asking this thing. Somaliland is not asking this thing. What you need, international, this is international recognition, and he is taking Biafra, Africa, leading African imagining nations to international recognition. He is leading them, and you have watched the message yesterday. Every one of them has been presented to Biafran people that you people should know. And the people who is connecting everything are these people. Without this head, without this Afro-Kwabo, which Orabueze have instructed many of you to insult, to go on and keep insulting, all these people, international people, will not be speaking to you today. That is what you have to know. And these also are people who know deep-rooted the problem you are passing in Nigeria, the problem you are facing in Nigeria, what you need to do. We continue.
And that's an area that I have great concern in what I see in Nigeria today. That again, there's a long history here, which I don't need to tell you because you have lived it. But it's recognized by some in America, and I think this is an important issue to address the new administration on. Because Donald Trump does care about religious liberty. It's an issue during his first term that he was concerned about. He received very strong support from many religious people in America. And this is the kind of issue that you can use to talk to the incoming administration about the importance of liberty in Nigeria, and also in that context then raise the cause of Biafra. That is not something which many people write about. Michael Rubin was an exception. But this is an issue that you can use to educate Americans. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is an independent body that studies religious issues around the world, told us last year that freedom conditions in Nigeria remained extremely poor. Violence across Nigeria impacted freedom of religion or belief, as the government failed to prevent attacks against faith-based organizations and worshipers, with some accusing it of actually fomenting those attacks. So this is recognized. This is recognized in Washington. And of course, these kinds of attacks harm all Nigerians, everywhere in the country. But the attacks have been particularly focused on Christians. And that is something, again, that can be brought to the attention of the U.S. government, that this is a way to raise your cause. The challenge, I have to tell you, is today in Washington, every interest group and everyone is lined up hoping to get the attention of the new president who comes into office. So this will not be easy. So it's very important to find causes that this president and those around him care about. And I think that is going to be the biggest challenge for you all. It was obvious the Biden administration was not particularly concerned about these issues. Unfortunately, I wish it had been. I personally and my institute try to stay nonpartisan. We want to speak to anyone who we can in Washington about policy and engage anyone who's willing to talk to us. But looking at the record of the Biden administration, it was far too willing to deal with the established government and seemed unconcerned about fundamental liberties like religious liberty, and was prepared to dismiss attacks on Christians throughout the country as being part of rural disputes and climate change and other things, when in fact we can understand the deep roots of religion that those attacks reflected, and the fact that there were virulent terrorist groups active in Nigeria, where at times the government and government security forces have seemed as willing to attack the citizens of Nigeria as to protect them from those terrorist threats. So this, I think, is an important issue to bring forward. It's also important to address the Trump administration when it's trying to think about future friends in Africa. The Biafra would be.
It is also very important to address Trump about new friends, imagining from Africa. Then, what do we have here? What do we have here? You can see the game as it is playing. We will like to read reasonable comments. Then you continue to go. You continue to listen to how you get international recognition. And what did the PM told us? There will be a grievances declaration. Now we continue, we go back a little, then we continue from here again.
Where at times the government and government security forces have seemed as willing to attack the citizens of Nigeria as to protect them from those terrorist threats. So this, I think, is an important issue to bring forward. It's also important to address the Trump administration when it's trying to think about future friends in Africa. The Biafra would be a friend of America.
Biafra will be a friend of America. Biafra will be a friend of America. Biafra will be a friend of America. Do you hear it? And Vincent Wilson on stage ask you, can you be bold? Can you be bold and ask Ngozi Fulani to account all the money in THJ Bank and the New Dimension Mandate account? Charity begins at home. She would lead you by example. And Wilson Vincent, immediately you ask this question, this will become your position. This will become your position. You will be removed by Ngozi Oraveze because you are under bondage. We will continue. What did he say? Biafra will become a friend to America. We are coming. We are coming. International recognition has started. For those who need freedom.
Threats. So this, I think, is an important issue to bring forward. It's also important to address the Trump administration when it's trying to think about future friends in Africa. That Biafra would be a friend of America.
Are you following?
And you are certainly making that case. And you need to ask those you know in America to make that case in America as well.
You need
Because
to
again,
ask.
Donald Trump is
You need to ask those who know how to make this case in America to make it for you. And who are those people? Who are those people? Listen, and you will see the people. The people we have met already. You need to meet those people who know how to make this case to do it for you. That is the lobby. And these are the people we have already met. Are you getting it? You are watching from 555 Vision, Biafra Gospel, and the Bible.
Is, shall we say, a very unique person. That that's not always perhaps to America's benefit, but I think in this case it's actually very useful. Because Donald Trump is willing to break with the status quo.
Donald Trump is ready to break the status quo. And our PM says, we will resist Nigerian move to persuade Trump against Biafran independence, says Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of Biafra. Are you following? In comment section is very, very important.
I do a lot of work on issues like North Korea, and I thought one of the brilliant steps that Donald Trump took was a willingness to meet with the leader of North Korea that no other U.S. president had ever done. So that is something that you can appeal to him on, that perhaps he could meet with the leader of Biafra. That he recognizes the importance of reaching out to people who his predecessors refused to have anything to do with. Donald Trump, maybe there is an opportunity. And I also think those around him.
Donald Trump may be an opportunity. And I also think that those people around him, listen to it here.
Many of those who are coming in share that willingness to challenge the status quo.
Many of those who is coming in, like those people being elected, as ministers under Trump, they are sharing the same idea with Donald Trump. International recognition. That is what we are talking about. And some people will come here and begin to beat the hands of the clock backward. We continue. Recommend this message to our acting prime minister. If bridge members are here, recommend this program to him. If he have time, he will go here and listen how we analyze it, because the presentation he made yesterday is one of the most important one. He is leading African emerging nation to freedom, to international recognition. So we continue. Your comment is necessary here, please. As you are writing comment, you are also helping the movement because...
And that is what you suffer from. And I will admit...
He's coming. Please.
When I first heard about what you were doing, I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember the terrible war. I was young, but I still remember pictures on TV and pictures of starving children, the horrors that happened with that. And you all know that. I suspect almost all of you had people who suffered in that, friends and family who died and suffered, the horrors of that, which can never be repeated. But what the status quo in Washington then is we don't talk about such things, right? We put them away in a closet somewhere, and we say that issue's finished, nothing to be done, please don't bother us, we have other things to do. And when you sit in Washington, I have to tell you, it's very tempting to it's kind of the ultimate imperial city, where American policymakers view themselves as kind of on top, and their job is to speak to the world and deliver their judgment. Now, I am not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell Nigerians or Africans what to do. I do not live your experience. I do not go through your experience. I have not suffered what you have suffered. I have not had the frustrations that you have had. So the last thing I would ever do is to try to tell you, as if I know better than you, what you should do.
He is not going to tell Biafrans what to do. He is not going to tell you to stop beating around the bush. He is not going to tell you to mind your recognition. He is not going to tell you to stop turning the hands of the time back. But what is he telling you? Come with the truth. With this truth, I will destroy Nigeria. With this truth, I will destroy Nigeria. He is not telling you, as Dr. Dodge, what to do. And this international recognition is the thing that is going to bring out our leader. Our leader has said, anybody who said that the coup in Nigeria is Igbo coup, he have already instructed his lawyers. Anybody who said that thing should be sued to court, because our leader Mazen Nnamdi Kanu knew that Ogechukwu Nkere has been elected as the acting prime minister. He is gaining more weight and more strength, knowing that international recognition have started. Are you following what we are doing now? We will continue. You know, this thing is cutting. Then,
but I want to encourage you to speak out, because you can carry the message forward. And that message needs to go to Washington, D.C. And
that message supposed to go to Washington, D.C. Not the kind of message you are hearing from the other part, the breakaway people, but the message which Marco Rubin has dropped to Biafran people. He says, whenever you come to speak anything diplomacy, remove everything in fighting. That is where Orabueze got it wrong. Because opportunity has been given to her as someone that loves to lead people. They gave her opportunity, and maybe you do not know the opportunity that has been given to her. Inside this place now, this is where the opportunity was provided for her. Come and respect the rule of law in order for you to be able to go inside Washington, D.C. legally, and she refused. She said she will impose herself because her name is Ngozi, a bona fide one Nigeria, a full-fledged one Nigeria, trying to rule Biafrans like a Nigerian, recruiting people that can insult. You understand? But what happened? We are moving forward. Dr. Dodge said here now, he is not going to tell you what to do. Neither. Rather, you should know that you are the person who is suffering.
That message needs to go to the White House when there's a new president. It needs to go to the Congress. Now the U.S. Senate will be controlled by Republicans as well. There's a chance there. It needs to go to think tanks, which matter, people who spend a lot of time, they publish lots of stuff. You know, they spend a lot of time thinking in theory, in meeting, but they need to hear your message, because today it's not a message that anyone really wants to talk about. But I think if you can get attention of the president, get attention of other leaders, this is an opportunity. And I want to encourage all of you, you have a cause that is just, a cause that is important. It is a cause that is compelling. And I think then nestle that within the larger argument. You know, this is an administration, current one, where the president only now, as he is about a month and a half away from leaving office, decided to visit Africa. That apparently he looked at a map one day and said, oh, I guess I wasn't there. Now we need, with the new administration, a president who comes in and says, I should go to Africa. I need to look at Africa. I need to understand Africa. And a good place for him to start is Nigeria. And if he starts, he should not start thinking of Abuja. He should start thinking about the people of Nigeria, wherever they live.
He should start thinking about the people of Nigeria, which is the indigenous people that found themselves inside Nigeria. The Benue, the people, the Kogi people, all the people suffering in Nigeria, and all the places. He should first of all think about the people of Nigeria, the indigenous of Nigeria. Then we continue.
And understanding how that government in Abuja and its security forces are not serving the people of Nigeria. Because the ultimate responsibility of any government is to protect your safety, is to protect your opportunities, to protect your freedom to worship and to live and to speak, and to protect a democratic future where you can choose your leaders freely and live in a free and democratic society. And that's not being done today by the government in Abuja. And Nigeria could lead Africa, but as I indicated, it looks like it's going in the wrong way. Well, a free Biafra could lead Nigeria.
Do you know why we are bringing this in again? We have come very, very far in this Biafran struggle. And we say, Igbo Biafrans will soon tag Trump, senators, and the all House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., a sabo, a criminal, scammer, and all manner of things, just because Ngozi Orabueze asked them to. Look at men's that see cabinet members of Washington, D.C. speaking about them. But these men without ball are coming here telling you that they are following someone whom they cannot ask a question. Look at them. This is the kind of people we are suffering that made Biafra not, that put us inside the bondage we are today. And you people should be ready to call even Trump scammer and the criminal, because Ngozi Arabeze ask you people to hate Nkere, and for this reason you will remain in Nigeria. But we Biafrans, we are going very, 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 very forward. You understand? Be ready to call Trump a scammer. But as you are doing this thing, do you know what is happening? Nkere is leading African imagining nation to freedom, to international recognition. As you are still waiting there, looking for whom to insult, because Ngozi have told you to insult people and you are insulting, keep on. But Biafrans and the African imagining nations, Eritrea, Ambazonia, Somaliland, look at them shouting. Hypocrite people.
So I want you to encourage, take that message to Washington, that listening to you is an opportunity for the United States to help improve Africa and help Africa lead the world. Because as I indicated, again, you look around the world, virtually every country is shrinking. I mean, one can look at Europe and much of Europe could theoretically disappear. I mean, the estimates on fertility rates, it's extraordinary. Even at China, by the end of the century, people talk about China being maybe 400 million people rather than 1.4 billion. Africa continues to have vitality. Africa continues to have life, and for the future can show the way. And that is a very good reason for the United States to have a president start with a visit to Africa, not end with a visit to Africa. To turn it around and say, I'm starting with the future. I'm starting with the possibilities. I'm starting with the opportunities.
The reason the I is in Africa is what he is telling you now. And this is what they call international recognition. These messages is what they are bringing on the top, to the for Trump to understand. And do you know what? We have already boycotted this message by allowing our acting prime minister to give information to all the people, all the cabinet members inside Washington, D.C. Everybody you have seen in this picture, we have thousands of them. The people he have met, hundreds of them. Then, before they shake this hand and take this picture, all of them are speaking in one voice, because they know that there is a future in Africa, and that future is Biafra.
Africa continues to have life.
They continue to have life.
And for the future can show the way.
Future can show the way.
And that is a very good reason.
That is a very good reason
to have a president start with a visit to Africa, not end with a visit to Africa. To turn it around and say, I'm starting with the future. I'm starting with the possibilities. I'm starting with the opportunities. And again, a good place to start, if that's your policy, is Biafra. So let me, as I indicated, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But it looks to me like you know what you want to do. And I want to commend you, again, for your enthusiasm, for your willingness to gather here, for your willingness you've chosen leaders, you're pushing referendum, you're taking steps to make this vision, this dream into a reality. And I just want to encourage you on that journey. This is your journey, not mine. Not Donald Trump's journey. It's not an America's journey. Unfortunately, the United States has pushed a lot of people on journeys that didn't work out. But if you start on the journey and you are making the journey happen, then you can come to America and say, help us. So I want to conclude with a vision of a democratic and prosperous African continent, a democratic and prosperous Nigeria, and a democratic and prosperous Biafra.
Somebody, one of the people that has no ball, he called his name New Dimension Mandate TV. You are asking, what has Ogechukwu Nkere, aka Anyogo, doing for Biafra recognition? This is what he is doing. Did Ngozi Okonjo know that this man is coming to Finland? Ask her. Immediately you ask her this question, exit door will be waiting for you. And what are we doing? Ogechukwu Nkere is leading African imagining nation into international recognition. That is what is happening. And he is acting under the vote Biafrans has given to him. You understand? And this was the meeting, some of the ally, you can never, Ngozi Okonjo can never in her life future these people. These are the Eritrea, and these are the Ambazonians. Ngozi Okonjo can never in her life invite the leader of Eritrea. She can never in her life invite the leader of Ambazonia, the people that signed the ally with us. Okonjo can never do that. And any day you wake up with this your New Dimension TV, any day you wake up and they ask Ngozi Okonjo, can you be able to bring these people to that your breakaway group? Do you know what will happen to you? This your New Dimension TV will be closed because she will send you out immediately. You are not enough. You are not whether man or whether woman. Nobody knows whom you are. Exit will become your way. These are the people of your type. Anybody who asks this kind of question, that Ogechukwu Nkere is now leading African imagining nation to international recognition. Can you be able to feature Eritrea president? Can you be able to feature the vice president of Ambazonia and this her breakaway group? That day, she will send you out. That day, immediately, she will send you away because you have eaten the forbidden fruit by asking an important question. But if you need Biafra, international recognition has kick-headed. We continue. He said, he is not going to tell you what to do. You know what to do. maybe you come here late. Mark Rubin already addressed the imagining nation, which acting Prime Minister Ogechukwu Nkere is leading today. We continue. We have a lot of things to do today.
This is up to you to turn that kind of a vision into a reality. And I'm so happy again to see so much enthusiasm and a willingness to gather and to push this vision. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come to speak to you. Because I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time, and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing and for me to go back to America.
As someone that has been very old inside American politics, that he found it energizing to go back to deliver this message where the message supposed to be. But immediately the declaration of Biafra, Orabueze come out with a new dimension, and she took every one of you to this place, psychiatric home, instead of the mansion. A na-esi n'elu arịda n'ala ka a na-esi n'ala arịgo n'elu. From this place, from this place, PM told Ngozi Orabueze, he said, we have new dimension on how to enter into the recognition of Biafra. Then Orabueze have to call you people and say Islamic Bank, and you are creating New Dimension TV in this place. That is how deranged you are. And what did Dr. Dodge told you people?
Because I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time, and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing and for me to go back to America.
I found it energizing because when we were in Finland, this person who doesn't have name here, what we felt in Finland was love and unity. I will never lie against this. Surprisingly, what we hear is, from now on, this one is a criminal. From now on, this one is a criminal. This one is a criminal. This is what we heard. Yeah, we dissolve the government now. CRC are criminals, and all of you jump there. Nigeria mentality, Usman Danfodio agenda, divide and rule. That is what all of you are serving under Ngozi Orabueze. Simple and short. Then we came back and we told you people, all of you under New Dimension, that a time is coming when you people will tag Donald Trump, senators, and the all House of Representatives inside Washington, D.C., a sabo, a criminal, a scammer, because all of you came to serve Ngozi Orabueze, not Biafra. If you listen to Mark Rubin, the message I played here, when Eritrea invited him for recognition, he says, anything you are doing, and that led you to diplomatic talk, remove every differences. But what did Ngozi Orabueze do? Ngozi Orabueze turned back and begin to call all these men criminal. Do you want to hear how she called them criminal? Before we proceed, you will see how Ngozi Orabueze
ex-British cabinet members, the criminal lobbyists that are parading with them in the name of trying to restore Biafra. Biafra's already stopped them on their track. That is why they cannot go. They can't move anywhere. Not when some, not when some of us. So,
Exactly.
Appalling. That is how bad things become. That's how bad things become. This man says he found energizing. Do you think? Oh, I left Finland with joy.
And I want to thank you for inviting me.
Do you think this man and all the eye that is looking?
So I want to conclude with a vision of a democratic and prosperous African continent, a democratic and prosperous Nigeria, and a democratic and prosperous Biafra. This is up to you to turn that kind of a vision into a reality. And I'm so happy again to see so much enthusiasm and a willingness to gather and to push this vision. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come to speak to you. Because I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time, and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing, and for me to go back to America.
Now, you see the message I brought out. Yeah? Malachi Ozo. This thing you brought here is exactly what happened. The damage Orabueze caused in the life of Biafra. He says, Malachi, I don't know if Malachi Ozo, are you a woman or a man? You say a whole 555 vision is 35 people watching. What a joke. The eye of the whole world is watching the damage of Orabueze. Yeah, if you think you are doing me, you are doing yourself. You think you have come to use me as a joke? No. And this is the damage that came from you people's brain, the small brain, chicken brain of Ngozi Orabueze. You understand? I have my holiday and I am speaking to Biafrans. Letting Biafrans to know Ogechukwu Nkere you hated is now leading African continent, African imagining nation. He is leading them. You understand now? And you are here laughing. When the people if maybe you ever need Biafra, the people you are calling, the same, all of them have all of them. He said he is living because he found energizing. Do you tell me now that this man, after Orabueze have called them criminal, that they will remain the same? I do not think. That is why a whole 555 vision is having 35 viewers. Everybody, we are here seeing the damages of Ngozi Orabueze, because all of us needed to move forward. Our new dimension is to move forward with one mind. and all of you fall back into ideology of Usman Dan Fodio. And before we continue, because I still have 1 hour here, before we continue, listen to see when this man is leaving. All of you, who is talking or Abweze, when this man is leaving, you will see how he left.
Enthusiasm and a willingness
We are
to
bringing
gather
it.
and to push this vision. And I want to thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you. Because I have to tell you, as someone who's been involved in American politics for a very long time, and has grown a little tired and a little cynical about American politics, I find this energizing and for me to go back to America. So thank you, Godspeed, and have a blessed new year.
Who do you see that is greeting him? Who do you see? This is Nkere. The same person they ask you to hate. Whom do you see there that come to greet him? Did you see Ngozi Oraveze there? You didn't see Ngozi Oraveze there. Are you understanding? Then, the same way you didn't see Ngozi Oraveze there, that is the same way how this man greeted him. That is exactly how all the people inside Washington, D.C. is embracing our acting prime minister elected. And this is the same way our acting prime minister is leading African imagining nation to international recognition. And at the same time, you see the meeting was yesterday. You see the meeting, it was yesterday. And here now, you see Nkere is the person that came to welcome him. And he is the person that know he is coming. He is the person that know when he leave and how he leave. You will watch here now how the man left. Those who is following Ngozi, let me bring it here so you will see it clear. From here, nobody see this man again. From here, he left.
That was a surprise. They said that we could not make it. You are not going to reach anywhere. They have the weapons. They have the power.
You see the movement? From here, the man went to his hotel and to airport, down to America, waiting for you people to come. And there is something he says in this place. He say, you people should come and let them know what you are fighting for officially. Then they will receive you and they present your matter to Donald Trump. Simple mathematics. And you are here thinking that somebody came here and the person wrote 555 vision, short engine. Can you imagine the brain of the people we are fighting for? He said 555 vision, short engine. What does this thing has to do with the Biafra we are fighting for? Do you know that Simon Eber have win in Nwaboda? Nwaboda is a short engine. That somebody who see me doing what I am doing here will come here and what he say, what he think he can say is to I will bring it to what somebody who suck his mother breast will do in comment section is to say 555 vision short engine. Let me look for it. I will look for it before I Malachi. Okay, I'm looking for it. Somebody wrote it here. What does it have to do with the program I am doing? I saw something like that here. Somebody say don't mind them. Then if I don't find it, I will look for it. So you will see the kind of people we are speaking for. The people that made them Nnamdi Kanu to be inside the prison. We don't know who voted Ngozi as PDM. That is the reason Ngozi Orebeze can never in her life defend the Biafra. Nobody voted her in. Nobody. So, Biafrans, we will go to Mark Ruben again so that people will really understand the next chapter of our message today. We will go there. We will go there. This is number 1. And this is number 2.
Finland's got to be on the right side of history.
One.
Finland especially should live up to its status, its claim as being the freest country on earth. That's what Freedom House ranked it as. And right now they're endangering their status. I should note that this isn't just a Nigeria-Finland issue. When there was an argument, when there was an effort for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, Turkey tried to blackmail both, but mostly Sweden, in order to betray Kurds, and Kurdish dissidents and Kurdish free speech in Sweden, in order to get Recep Tayyip Erdogan to drop his objection to Sweden's accession to NATO. And in the end, Sweden betrayed its principles. And Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while he allowed Sweden in NATO, gratuitously humiliated Sweden. Finland should not allow itself to be gratuitously humiliated by a country that violates religious freedom, by a country that violates democracy, by a country that has been guilty of genocide. Finland must be better, and they must recognize that they should not be an arm of transnational repression.
Now, I will leave this picture here now. Let us go more to international recognition presentation from Marco Ruben, from Dodge, the thing our acting prime minister is doing with the people inside Washington, D.C. This picture I am showing, the one I have very close, there are hundreds of them, the people he has already met. Now, this international recognition which our acting prime minister Ogechukwu Nkere have started now, let us begin.
Not every rebellion is bad. British oppression and
before we continue, this news you are going to listen now came from Marco Ruben. He is his own news. But our people, if you cannot read, you can also listen. So this message now is, he said, not every rebellion is bad, because they understand very deep the outcry of Biafran people, why they tag them terrorists, and why Ambazonia is fighting, why in Togo they are killing people, and Eritrea and Somaliland and Ambazonia, all the people fighting for Biafra. And you hear Dr. Dodge, he says that Biafra will become the first Remember, if without Biafra, it will be difficult for Ambazonia. And without Ambazonia, it will be difficult for Biafran people. And this is what you are watching in this place. Yesterday, it was presented and it became official, more official in Washington, D.C. the other day. So, if you have your EA intact, this is now the news. We have to follow the news the way it is. It doesn't matter who you hate and who hates you. You understand? It doesn't matter whom you hate and who hates you. Whenever you are dealing on international recognition diplomacy, remove every of this derogatory word, because you are fighting to achieve one thing. Now we continue. Remember, what you are listening now is his own words, but recorded. You understand now? Now we continue. Bear with me, eh?
Not every rebellion is bad. British oppression and taxation without representation justified the rebellion of American colonists against King George III. A quest for liberty and freedom likewise justified the 1821 to 1829 Greek War of Independence against the Ottoman Empire. T.E. Lawrence's efforts to spark the Arab Rebellion during World War I became the stuff of legend. In recent years, many Americans and Europeans cheered the Arab Spring masses who ousted Tunisian dictator Zayn el-Abidine Ben Ali, Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, and Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. Not even Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's al-Qaeda past could blunt the enthusiasm with which many in Washington greeted its ouster of Bashar al-Assad. Often, however, European and American policymakers automatically or arbitrarily castigate rebellions and insurgencies as counter to freedom and U.S. interests. Finnish and Norwegian authorities have respectively arrested Simon Ekpa, expatriate leader of the Biafra cause in Nigeria, and Cho Lucas Yaba, president of the Ambazonia Governing Council in Cameroon. They may have done so at the diplomatic request of the Nigerian and Cameroonian governments. But they are effectively prioritizing diplomatic etiquette over one of the most brutal anti-Christian regimes in Nigeria and an anti-Anglophone dictatorship in Cameroon. The State Department, too, rejects rebellions that, on their face, they should support. Consider the fighting in the Democratic Republic of Congo's North Kivu province. The current rebellion has roots in the 1994 anti-Tutsi genocide in Rwanda. Certainly, Kagame's efforts to oust the genocidal Hutu regime were just. After Paul Kagame's Rwandan Patriotic Front pushed the genocidaires into eastern Congo. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees allowed the Hutus who slaughtered Tutsis based on their ethnicity to settle armed into the camps. UN camps became catalysts to incite a new generation. They were the fuel in fire. Congolese President Félix Tshisekedi was the match. He rose to power not by winning a legitimate election but by buying off votes after the fact. Tshisekedi floundered through his first term. He could point to no real achievements. As he began campaigning for
Biafrans, I believe you are following logically what is happening here. When you are doing international recognition, you have to then present the grievances, the things that is making you to say that you need a new place that you can feel comfortable. Now, Marco Rubin have taken it on his own to make sure that our outcry is being heard to the head of the state, which is Donald Trump. And when this thing started, Our PM, all these people that is fighting him today, he said, we will resist Nigerian move to persuade Trump against the independence of Biafra, says Simon Eber. Now he is not here. Biafrans has come together and elected someone. Biafra, first of all, Biafra was restructured that even a newborn baby can lead Biafra. That is how PM restructured Biafra. What Biafra need is who can work and present the document on the table. Then the document will tell the person what we need. This is not a matter of speaking grammar. This is not a matter of speaking British English or American English. No, it is a matter of who can go. Onye ka ga-eziga. Ogechukwu Nkere say, "Nem zigam." Now he has been there, and all these people has recognized him. All these people have recognized him. These people you are watching, all the pictures we are showing you, they have recognized him as the acting prime minister because our leader, Mazen Nandekano, is incarcerated. Our prime minister is not here. Then Biafra elected him. He presented the matter. Now he has presented the matter. The people that has the certificate have taken it on their own. Are you following? The people that have the certificate.
Re-election. Then, he turned to ethnic incitement to distract Congolese away from him by turning them against each other. It was a dangerous strategy given the fragility of society and the history of civil war. Congolese Tutsis woke up to find night letters demanding they abandon land they farmed for well over a century or face murder and rape. As violence increased, in 2012, the March 23 movement, M23, formed to fight after the Congolese government failed to implement a 2009 peace treaty. I spent a portion of August 2024 embedded with the M23 in North Kivu. What I saw among ordinary people was far less fear of the group than I had seen among other Congolese during a previous visit to Kinshasa. Many appeared relieved they no longer faced Tshisekedi's ruinous taxes, nor the random shakedowns that left farmers hungry. While a small group of activists and academics argue that Rwanda directs M23, they substitute repetition and volume for appreciation of regional nuance. Many Congolese spent time in Rwanda as refugees but returned to North Kivu, where their families resided since the 18th century. While the UN has accused Rwanda of deploying forces into North Kivu, most UN officials cannot tell the difference between a Rwandan Tutsi and a Congolese one. It is telling that through months of fighting, Tshisekedi's government cannot produce any captured Rwandan or the body of any Rwandan soldier allegedly killed in Congo. Nor are accusations of Rwandan looting anything more than exaggeration. What the State Department says is looting, businessmen in eastern Congo say is normal business. They trade their goods across the border into Uganda and Rwanda because customs duties are an order of magnitude lower than the internal taxes they would pay to transport goods to Kinshasa. Rather than condemn rebels, Washington should recognize that what the rebels in eastern Congo face are the same groupings that perpetrated genocide or now cheer it on. Rather than side with a corrupt Congolese government that cultivates China and whose dictator seeks an illicit third term, Washington should be blunt. The city of Goma would be better under M23 control as capital of a federal region, not unlike Iraqi Kurdistan. Rather than condemn the rebels, the United States, Europe, and African states should work with them to build their capacity and help them govern freely and fairly. Congo deserves better than Tshisekedi. The rebels may be how they achieve a fairer, freer, and more prosperous future.
You have to start.
Rubio should reconfigure the State Department.
Now, Marco Rubio is the person that represented Anthony Blinken as a spokesperson of America. Marco Rubio is against what the Islam are doing against the Christians. Then, with what is going on and the agenda of Trump, the people he elects are the people who has come to save the Christians and also to make sure that those who is running away from their own land will have a home. If you go back to Dr. Dodge, in this message you are watching up here on the one I have played before, he says that a lot of graduates from Biafra land are going to America to look for job, which supposed to be contrary. They're supposed to stay in their own land and develop their own nation. This is here. So Trump now is featuring the people who want to listen to you. Only when you allow people to distract you, the people who is telling you, go and insult this person, go and insult this person, then Marco Rubio said, anytime you are coming to do anything that have to do with diplomacy, no matter how enemy you are with that person, remove it, because all of you are fighting for one goal. He says that him and Morgan doesn't agree in anything, but when it comes to Biafra first, Marco Rubio is telling you this thing. And what you are about to listen now is the message from Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a South American person. Marco Rubio originated from South America. Those people that believe strongly in Christianity.
Department for a 21st century world.
Let me start it again.
Rubio should reconfigure the State Department for a 21st century world. Secretary of State designate Marco Rubio will likely sail through his confirmation hearings and is likely to take the helm of his department long before the Senate confirms his fellow cabinet members. Frankly, he will need the time. Not only has his predecessor Antony Blinken been perhaps the most naive and least effective Secretary of State since Frank Kellogg a century ago, but too many of his immediate predecessors have focused more on travel for travel's sake than on managing an increasingly ossified and antiquated organization.
I believe many people knows the person he referred to, Antony Blinken. He referred, Marco Rubio referred to Antony Blinken as the most naive person America ever produced, the Secretary of the State, the person who removed Nigeria out of terrorist index. But today, the person they have chosen is Marco Rubio to do the job which Antony Blinken betrayed America for. And this man cannot lie. Marco Rubio, he stand very, very strong for Biafra. But he say, you should be the one to do it?
Simply put, the State Department is a largely 19th century construction that expanded in the 20th century, but too often appears out of place for the 21st century. A century ago, diplomats were not only representatives but newsmen. They cabled back word of events to decision-makers in Washington who suddenly had a global perspective but had few sources of information. There was no CNN or MSNBC. Reuters relied on pigeon posts until the mid-19th century, but even after, it was primarily a wire service. Only in the 1960s did it convert to wireless to expedite news and serve financial firms and newspapers. Within decades, cable and satellite television changed the information landscape again. Diplomats may still write and send cables, but seldom do they inform more than a common online newspaper would. Nor do ambassadors have the same clout. The US ambassadors in London, Paris, and Berlin are essentially party planners who enjoy free parking. If serious negotiations are afoot even farther afield, the secretary or president can call his counterpart in a matter of minutes. And, yet, the imprint of U.S. embassies and consulates remain largely unchanged. The United States retains consulates in Bordeaux, Lyon, Marseille, Rennes, and Strasbourg. Rennes has a population of 368,000, roughly the size of Cleveland, Ohio. The same pattern holds true with Canada, a neighbor and important trading partner, where the U.S. maintains consulates in Halifax, population 486,000, and Winnipeg, population 557,000, among other cities. Meanwhile, there are 46 cities in India, with populations exceeding 1 million. Only 4 of which have a U.S. consulates. Africa is already a battleground for influence among great powers. President Joe Biden's final trip abroad as president will be to Angola, where he will highlight the Lobito Corridor, an attempt to reorient Africa's trade from the Indian Ocean basin and China to the Atlantic Ocean and the United States. The Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, the second largest country in Africa, has 70% of the world's cobalt, a critical component for lithium batteries. In theory, in terms of wealth and impact on the global economy, the DRC could be the Saudi Arabia of the 21st century, if it were not for the corruption and misrule of incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi. While the U.S. Embassy in Kinshasa can communicate with Tshisekedi and his cabal of cronies, consulates in Goma or Lubumbashi could better report on both regional insurgencies and Chinese penetration. Or consider Nigeria. On November 29, 2024, Biafra, the subject of a 1967-70 genocide. Reader 29, 2024, Biafra, the subject of a 1967-70 genocide. Redeclared its independence from Nigeria with its capital at Ibube. Its action follows decades of discrimination against the ethnic Igbo and the region's Christian and animist population. 29, 2024, Biafra, the subject of a 1967-70 genocide. Redeclared its independence from Nigeria with its capital at Ibube. Its action follows decades of discrimination against the ethnic Igbo and the region's Christian and animist population. Yet the State Department maintains no presence in the region, and so relies on the perpetrators of the Biafra genocide to speak on behalf of its victims. The lack of consulates along the Gulf of Guinea coast also makes it more difficult to monitor piracy, the oil trade, and Chinese influence. The same holds true for Somaliland.
Do you hear where he said concerning the Gulf of Guinea, where they are transporting illegal petrol? That is the same thing Marco Ruben is commenting here, and that is the same thing Marco Rubio is also commenting in this place. That is the same thing our prime minister told us, that the advantage America must to support Biafra is to block the Gulf of Guinea illegal exploitation by China and other illegal things.
The world's most likely new state. Briefly independent in 1960, the unrecognized country has run its own affairs since 1991. It orients itself to Taiwan while Somalia proper tilts toward Beijing. And Somaliland is a democracy while Somalia is a kleptocracy ruled over by a president selected by just a couple hundred clan elders. European and African countries maintain consulates or offices in the Somaliland capital Hargeisa, but the State Department operates blind. The same is true in Aden, the capital of the former, and perhaps future, South Yemen. Then there is Nagorno-Karabakh, an Armenian Christian territory that Azerbaijan ethnically cleansed in September 2023. Satellite photos and sporadic visitors suggest that Azerbaijan is systematically erasing Armenian cultural heritage. An American consulate in Stepanakert could monitor the situation and pierce the gilded bubble that Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev seeks to construct with Turkish proxies. If not troops invading northern Syria, a more permanent American diplomatic presence in Syrian Kurdistan would provide greater bang for the buck than, for example, the U.S. consulate in Zurich. Switzerland, one of 3 U.S. outposts in the country.
Now, Biafrans, this is one of the declaration that is already on the table of the congressmen. These are the declarations. Our PM made us to understand that this is called grievances declaration. And this grievances declaration, maybe next time we will bring it to you when Brian Okoma declared the grievances of Biafra in Finland. And Michael Rubin and Marco Rubio, they are extending it to entire Africa, which you know that no country in Africa is okay. But Biafra seems to be the beginning of light in Africa, which is what Biafra represents. That makes Ngozi Orabueze to be down in this Biafra movement because you need vote. Many Biafrans doesn't vote in Nigeria. They don't know the importance of it. But the Fulanis will register their cows and vote them. Fulanis will go to Chad, Niger, Mali, and bring people in to come and vote for them to have number. But Igbo Biafrans and the Biafran people at large are there. Nobody is interested in casting vote. That is why you do not understand the reason. We will come back again and bring the reason. Nkere, as a businessman, he said he spent 5 years studying American politics. And when this thing broke out, CRC said, whoever that will lead must to present his paper. They will verify the person. Nkere knows the importance of vote. But Ngozi Orabueze, working inside a psychiatric hospital, doesn't know the importance of vote. Orabueze then feel that she can recruit people which can shout and insult people, call them criminal, go to all their platform. The only language you will be hearing in that place, criminal, sabo, scammer, criminal, sabo, scammer. These things are not necessary. And you know that you are lying against these people. Nkere then said he need the vote. Now he has been voted in. You can see the movement. If you look inside this place here now, you will see that Dr. Dodge, Ogechukwu Nkere is the only person who have picture with Dr. Dodge when he came to Finland. Did Ngozi Orabueze took picture with Dr. Dodge? No is the answer, because you do not know what has transpired in this movement. And the Biafrans, and after much, here is what Mark Ruben told Finland government.
You know, Finland's got to be on the right side of history. Finland especially should live up to its status, its claim as being the freest country on earth. That's what Freedom House ranked it as. And right now they're endangering their status. I should note that this isn't just a Nigeria-Finland issue. When there was an argument, when there was an effort for Finland and Sweden to join NATO, Turkey tried to blackmail both, but mostly Sweden, in order to betray Kurds, and Kurdish dissidents and Kurdish free speech in Sweden, in order to get Recep Tayyip Erdogan to drop his objection to Sweden's accession to NATO. And in the end, Sweden betrayed its principles. And Recep Tayyip Erdogan, while he allowed Sweden in NATO, gratuitously humiliated Sweden. Finland should not allow itself to be gratuitously humiliated by a country that violates religious freedom, by a country that violates democracy, by a country that has been guilty of genocide. Finland must be better, and they must recognize that they should not be an arm of transnational repression.
Articles on insecurity in Nigeria. Today, Doug will share his perspective on Biafra freedom, exit from Nigeria, its implications for security, and the role the U.S. government can play. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Doug.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is a much more enthusiastic audience than I normally find in Washington, D.C. And I appreciate very much the opportunity to come. As you can imagine, for me, it's very unusual to be speaking about Nigeria in Lahti, Finland. Only very recently did I have a chance to meet and to speak with your ministers and discuss your cause. And I'm very glad that Michael Rubin spoke to all of you. I have great respect for him, and he writes about liberty and freedom around the world regularly in Washington. I have visited Nigeria and have been incredibly impressed at the people that I have met. As I traveled across Nigeria, I found people who were entrepreneurial, who worked extraordinarily hard, who were people of faith, people who cared for their families, and people with extraordinary potential. Yet I found that they suffered under a government that did not live up to its responsibilities to protect them and to protect those opportunities for them, and a government that in many cases seemed to be working against them instead of for them. Now, Nigeria, as anyone who looks at would recognize, is extraordinarily important, not only for Africa, but to the world.
Now, Abga Abuga, Washington. We know, you are watching from 555 Vision. You who is dying because of the skate of Ngozi Orabueze.
Okay,
This is the
I
message from
sent
Ngozi
my
Orabueze.
questions privately to you, but it seems you did not see it. So let me read them out. One of the questions says, how ready are the logos for all the departments to enable us to know the right handles to follow? That is one. So should I read them out or you take them one after the other?
Okay, so the logos are almost ready. It's been the final touch is being done on the logos. I believe the information department already got their logo out, and I think they're almost already. We just have to approve that. Yeah, the readies are almost ready, and very soon the different department will start using those logos on their Twitter handles. Next.
That means any day you wake up and they ask Ngozi Orabueze, why did you change all the logo created by our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa? She will take you away unless you are in accord with her destroying this movement. Then we continue.
Okay, based on the investigation, how close are they getting to the conclusion of the investigation
you are
of
in
our PM?
accord with
Again, the
her
update on
destroying
our
this
PM
movement.
is not something that
Or
I
you
will
ask
be
her,
here to
why
tell
do you
you
change
this or
all the
that.
logo?
The
Why are
Finnish
you
local
creating your
police,
own
they have a
military?
process, and
You
I
think
said
you
that
can
at
just
the
come here
beginning
and
of
write
this
rubbish? I will bring it
meeting.
out and I will give you the video.
We all love our PM, and then the lies that have been tendered by the Nigerian government and some Biafran criminals. Those lies are being
What
looked
you people
upon.
know
And
best
again, the
is to
longer the
call
better,
people
because
criminal.
remember now, we Biafran criminals, those lies are being looked upon. And again, the longer the better, because remember now, PM has always said he's waiting for a day like this to come. No court, no indictment. Those lies are being looked upon. And again, the longer the better, because
Ngozi Orabueze said, the longer the better. Simon Ekpa Obata Obienjoko, the longer the better. The longer he stay inside the prison, the better. And Abga, you are accusing Nkere for having a different name. But what you write here is, your own name is Abuga, Washington, Abi, but you are accusing Nkere for having a different name. Na eji nwayọ wepụ ogwu anwa n'unu n'anya before na achọba nke dị n'anya onye ọzọ. Ndara. The longer, the better he stay inside. Now she is creating her own military. Ask her.
Remember
then
now,
removal will become your portion.
has always said he's waiting for a day like this to come. No court, no indictment, nothing.
It's a I'll take go to 20 years. I'm waiting for that 20 years. I'll take 30 years. I'll go wait for that 30 years.
This is the wish they are wishing Simon Ekpa. The longer, the better. 20 years or 30 years. And this is what all of you are standing for under Ngozi Orabueze. And they ask you here now, what did Ngozi Orabufulani done since she came from Finland? The only thing Ngozi Orabueze has done is to call people criminal and change people's identity and tell them, go and insult anybody that speak about Biafra. So, Biafrans, today we have reviewed the international recognition which is led by our acting Prime Minister, Nkere. Those who need Biafra to be recognized, you know what to do. The only thing, come and support your freedom. Finish. The movement is there already. But if you think that coming here to insult people, someone came here, he said, I am short engine, what does it have to do to my life? The people that is tall and the people that is short, what does it change? You are a human being. There are dwarfs as well. They are living. So this is not argument which one can stand. Or somebody will come and say, oh, they paid Nkere 150 billion or 150 million. Some people will believe such rubbish. Thank you, lovers of freedom. Here we stop for now. Maybe media team will join us again. They won't.